She doesn't know.
ओम सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ओम शांति शांति शांति। श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पाद शंकरं लोकशंकरं शंकरं शंकराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्य कृतौ वंदे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः। पेज नंबर 150. See, the creation is not it's not that Parameshwara does tapasya and then creates the universe. It's not. It doesn't. He doesn't create. What is unmanifest becomes manifest. That is called creation. This is Shastra Kalpana. What is unmanifest becomes manifest because there is manifestation, and therefore we have to infer that this was unmanifest before. The manifest was unmanifest before, and now it becomes manifest. It only becomes manifest. Anything that is unmanifest becomes manifest. The manifest becomes unmanifest within the self, within the truth. Prabodha Rupam. Prabodha Rupam means in the waking state. In the waking state, Manaso Artha Yogajam. Manasaha, the mental impressions. The unmanifest becomes the manifest. Yogajam. Artha Yogajam means Artha here should mean the impression. Looking like an Artha. Artha Yogajam. Yogajam means when the thought is mixed with the impression, when the mind is mixed with the impression, born out of that is the object. Smrito, in memory. Smriti may mean smrito, in memory, and swapne suptasya. And also a person who dreams. The person who dreams also in the dream state also, suptasya. Drishyataha. Drishyataha means a person who sees. Arthavat. Arthavat means a person who sees in the memory the impression. A person who sees the impression in the dream, they look like objects. Arthavat means anything that looks like a useful object. Usefulness of an object means a sense of reality about an object. Once you see the object as real, then you consider it as it is something that is available for likes and dislikes. It is available for pleasures and pains. It is available for it's available for buying and selling, etc., etc. And therefore, the sense of reality is important. That it is real is important. That it is other than me is important. There is Dvaitam, and there is also a sense of reality about the world. The unmanifest also is real. The manifest is also real. The unmanifest is inferred, and the manifest is perceived. Both are perceived. The unmanifest is perceived. The manifest is perceived. The unmanifest is inferred. Suptasya cha drishyatah arthavat. Tathaiva deham atimanatah. Deha means the body. Pratimanitaha. Deha pratimanitaha. Pratimanataha. Pratima means the body is like a pratima. It is like the body. Pratimanataha. It is an object. It is a lifeless object. The body is like lifeless object. So pratak drishe hai. and it looks as though different from it is objectifiable by the drashta. The body is objectifiable, and therefore it is not the drashta. The body is also objectifiable, therefore it is not drashta. Drishehe, shariram cha, manascha. Not only the body, the mind also. The mind, the thoughts also are objectifiable. Manascha, drishyataha. When you see the object, drishyataha means they both see, they both look to be real, but the body is objectifiable, the mind is, the thoughts are also objectifiable. Anything that is objectifiable is not awareness. It is dead and gone. It is a dead matter, and therefore, what is it? What is it that you want to convey? You have to convey that you have your awareness, and therefore you are not the body, you are not the mind, you are not the thought, and therefore that is what is meant to be conveyed. The body is objectifiable, the thought is objectifiable, and anything that is objectifiable is not the objectifier, and therefore you are the objectifier. You are solely a conscious being. You are not a mixture of body and consciousness, and therefore you are not a jiva. If you are identified with the body, then you are a jiva. You are not, and therefore your jivatvam itself is born of identification. Dehavatvam is what is called jivatvam, and therefore here, in order not to become a jiva, when you are a jiva, you suffer from the samsara. You suffer from pleasures and pains. You suffer from bodily movements, kartrutvam, etc. But when the body is not there, when you understand that the body cannot conceal the consciousness, the body is like the pot cannot conceal the clay. The pot cannot conceal the clay. Pot is pervaded by the clay. Similarly, the body is not, it can't conceal the consciousness. It is pervaded by consciousness, and therefore it is not it doesn't qualify the consciousness. It doesn't conceal the consciousness. It doesn't qualify the consciousness. Consciousness doesn't have the qualities of the body, the thought, and therefore, and therefore you have to understand, reflect between yourself, your existence, and the body and the thought. Reflect the difference between the body and consciousness. You are solely consciousness. This is what is to be understood. And that is in the waking looks as though real, but then what looks real need not be real. It is only mithya, because it is pervaded by the satyam. What is pervaded by the satyam is mithya. The mithya is not a parallel to satyam. The mithya is pervaded by the satyam. The mithya is in the place of satyam. Mithya is only a perception, is only a sight. Whereas satyam is what is. The rope is, the snake is only a perception. You see the snake in the rope. You see the snake in the rope, and therefore snake is only a perception. The universe is only a perception. Minus the perception, there is no universe as such. Minus perception, and this is what is to be thought about. Swabhava Shuddhe Gagane. Swabhava Shuddhe. Gaganam means the space. Space is by nature, it is Swabhava Shuddham. It is by nature conscious, it is by nature, it is pure. It is not qualified by the air, it doesn't have the qualities of the air, it doesn't have the qualities of the fire, it doesn't have the qualities of water, it doesn't have the qualities of earth, and that is its purity. That it is not qualified by any of the four elements is its purity. Please, Gaganam, the space, Gaganam, Subhava Shuddhe Gagane, Ganadike, and the clouds when they are there, when they are not there. Male, apayate sati, cha viseshuta. There is no difference between in the sky, the space. There is no difference in the space. There is no difference. Why there is no difference? When the clouds are there or not, there is no difference. When they are there, when the clouds are there, when the clouds are not there, there is no difference at all. in the space. In the same manner, tatha yathacha, yathacha, how Gaganam is something, the space is something, it remains pure. Even though the atmosphere may become dusty, but the space doesn't become qualified. The space is different from atmosphere, please. The atmospheric air, the air is something that can become impure. The pollution may become different, but the pollution doesn't qualify the space. The space is always pure. The space is something that is pure. And therefore, here it is said, Yathacha, Tadvata, Shruti Varita Dvaye. The Shruti also says, Varita means Nivarita. Dvaya means it says that Dvaitam is not there. Whether it is Dvaitam is not there, the Shruti says, and that Sada Avishesha, whether it says or not, doesn't say. Whether it says so, or the Shruti says that there is no Dvaitam, or you may think that there is Dvaitam. It doesn't make any difference to the truth. Sada Vishesha Gaganopame Sadrishe Drishav. In the consciousness, Drishav means in the consciousness there is no difference. Gaganopame, it is like the space. The truth is like space. How the space is unaffected by whether the clouds are there, it is pure. Whether the clouds are not there, it is pure. In the same manner, whether the Shruti says that the Dvaitam is not there, it is pure. And Dvaitam, if it is not said, then also it is pure. Even when the Jiva thinks that the Shruti I have to follow, and therefore it is true, the Shruti is true, when he thinks so, then also it is pure. When he doesn't think so, then also it is pure. Atma doesn't become impure. Whatever, it is not qualified by the 5 elements. Just as the Gaganam is not qualified by the 4 elements, it's not qualified by the 5 elements. And therefore, minus those 5 elements, there is no sight, if there is no hearing, there is no tasting, touching, smelling, then it is absolute silence. Absolute silence is like in Sushupti. You are absolutely free from anything qualified, and therefore you are absolute. As absolute, you are absolute, and therefore you are pure, and therefore here it is said, Sada Visheshaha. Sada Vishesha means there is no difference in the drishi. In the consciousness, there is no difference at all. Whether the Shruti says so, or Shruti doesn't say so, or you accept the Shruti, or you don't accept the Shruti. Whether you understand the Shruti or you don't understand the Shruti, it is the same. The purity of the self is the same. As Shankaracharya says, it is anupadeyam, it is aheyam and anupadeyam. It is upadeya rahitam. It is something that cannot be deleted, anything from it. You cannot add anything to the truth. And that is why it is ever pure. So the avishesha, there is no difference for the consciousness. Consciousness is the same. And therefore this is very important. Gagana upame. Gagana upame means Gaganam is the simile for the truth. Akasha is a simile for the truth. Upama means a simile. Gagana upame means the Gagana, the space is like the space is a simile for the truth. In that, just as the space is something that is not qualified with the 4 elements, in the same manner, the truth also is not qualified with the 5 elements. When it is not qualified with the 5 elements, or when it is understood, when it is said so by the Shruti, when it is understood so by the Jiva, or when it is not understood so by the Jiva's actuality remains pure. Jiva's actuality remains pure. And that is Brahmatma remains pure. Gaganopme Drishav. Drishav means in the consciousness. And then the next adhyaya we have to begin. Na anyad prakaranam. Na anyad prakaranam. One doesn't become the other. There is no one becoming the other. One doesn't become the other. One doesn't become the other. One may look to be the other. The rope doesn't become the snake. The rope may look like the snake. Na anyad Nanyad anyad prakaranam. Nanyad anyad prakaranam means one doesn't become the other. One doesn't become the other. Brahman doesn't become the jiva, nor jiva can become the Brahman. The jiva, Brahman only looks like the jiva. He only looks like the jiva. Like the dream objects, they only look like it because their perception. You see yourself as a jiva. As long as you see yourself as a jiva, you suffer, and therefore the sight is very important. Knowledge is important. Knowledge negates the error. When the knowledge negates the error, when the error is gone, ignorance is gone, then your suffering also is gone. And therefore, nanyad anyat prakaranam. Nanyad anyat bhavet. Bhavet means it can become. Na anyad bhavet. One cannot become the other. Na anyad bhavet. Anyad bhavet. Anyad means the other. Why, in Sanskrit, this is a phrase, ji. Nanyad anyad bhavet. One cannot become the other. One cannot become bhavet. Yasmat, because one cannot become the other. The Brahman did not become the jiva. The Brahman only looks many jivas. The one looks like many. The one looks many. The one doesn't become many. The one looks many. The one looks many. The impressions themselves look like objects, look like apparent objects. They look like objects. Looking like is different from becoming. Bhaved yasmat. Yasmat means because it is so. Because bhavet yasmat nanyat kinchit vichintayet. You should not think that the Brahman is something different from me. This you should not think. Nanyat vichintayet. Na anyat vichintayet. Don't think of Brahman as something other than you. Don't think of Brahman as something other than you. Don't think of the truth as something other than you. Because anyasya anyatva bhave. If the one became the other, if one became the other, then what happens? Nashastasya dhruvo bhave. In fact, both become nasha, both become destructive. If whatever becomes is destructive, if Brahma loses, the Brahma becomes the jiva, Brahma has to lose the Brahmatvam, and when the jiva becomes the Brahma, jiva has to lose his existence, and therefore when you lose jiva and loses his existence, is gone. Then who, if he dies, if the jiva dies, then who is going to become, who is going to come to know that he is unlimited, he is free from limitation. His astitvam is gone, and therefore his existence is gone. When it is gone, and therefore if one became the other, the one who becomes the other has to go, and what becomes also has to go. Both become non-eternal. Nashastasya dhruvam bhavet. It becomes definitely a non-eternal. And therefore, one did not become the other. The dream did not become, the waking impressions don't become the dream. They look like the dream objects. They look like the dream objects. Similarly, the anadi impressions look like the waking world. The unmanifest looks like the manifest objects, manifest impressions. Impressions in the form of in the memory look like objects. Impressions in the dream look like objects. In the same manner, in the waking state also, they all remain in yourself, and they all look like objects. The unmanifest, the manifest impressions look like objects, and therefore it's very important to discover that it is only what you see is not outside you, it is within you, it is made of you. It is every impression is an impression made of consciousness. Similarly, an object is an object which is made of consciousness, just as pots are made of clay. In the same manner, the objects are also made of consciousness. This is what is to be reflected through Bhavet. And therefore, one doesn't become the other, one only looks the other. One looks the other, looking like the other, looking like the other has to looking like the other means mithya. Looking, you only see the other. It doesn't look like the other. You only see it to be the other. It is only perception of it as the other. It is only perception of it. You perceive the rope as snake. In the same manner, the perception it doesn't look. You perceive the perception of the. I find myself perceiving the one as the other. I find myself perceiving myself as a jiva. I find myself perceiving the Brahmatvam as jiva. I find myself perceiving the jiva, perceiving myself as a jiva. I find myself perceiving pleasures and pains. I find myself angry. I find myself full of desires. I find myself incomplete. I find myself, and therefore, it is this incomplete is nothing but Brahman. Brahman looking like the complete, looking like the incomplete. The complete looks like the incomplete me. And this is not something that is not created by my will. It is not, nor is it created by Parameshwara's will. It only presupposes Parameshwara's presence. It is a peaceful presence, absolutely peaceful presence. Consciousness is a peaceful presence, and therefore consciousness doesn't become the other. Consciousness looks like the other, and therefore here, and if it becomes the other, then it can be destroyed. What becomes the other gets destroyed, and what becomes the other, what changes has to destroy itself, and the change has to destroy itself, and therefore the original thing, if the Brahman becomes the Jiva, the Brahmatvam has to go, and the Jiva has to become the Brahman. The Jiva has to lose its existence, and therefore when it loses its existence, then what is there? Then who is there to discover that I am Brahman? And therefore, but in actuality, neither the Jiva loses his Jivatvam, Ishvara loses his Ishvaratvam. Then what is there is only consciousness, and consciousness does not become the Jivaji. Consciousness is something that is always there. Consciousness is always there, and therefore consciousness does Brahma does not become the Jiva, nor Jiva becomes the Brahma. In order to get liberated, Jiva doesn't become the other. It doesn't become Brahman. It only loses the Jivatvam. Jiva loses the Jivatvam. Jiva loses its limitation. When the Jiva loses its limitation, it is free. So it doesn't have to become Brahman. It is already Brahman. It doesn't have to become Brahman. It is already Brahman. The wave doesn't have to become water. It is already water. It has to become free from only the waveness. I am the wave. I am a small. That the sense of smallness has to go. Sense of the measurement that I am the body has to go. That I am the body has to go. That is the meaning of neti neti. And therefore, neither Brahman becomes the Jiva, nor Jiva becomes the Brahman. The Jiva doesn't become Brahman. Tasrishto tadeva anupravishata. Having created the body, it occupies the body. It doesn't become the Jiva. So Atmananu Namarupe Vakarvani. Atmananu means Swarupena Pravishya. It enters itself as the Brahman. It remains a Brahman, and then it looks as though Jiva. It looks as though Jiva. It looks as though Jiva. That is very important. Ji. It looks as though Jiva. It remains Brahman. It looks as though Jiva. And having looked as Jiva, it continues to be suffering as a Jiva. He continues to suffer. And once it meets the Shastra and the Shastra says, that Dvaitam is not there. It is only it is only perceived. Your perception is not corrected. In this manner, the Shruti says, and therefore the Jiva corrects the perception. When he corrects the perception, when he corrects the perception, the error is corrected. When the error is corrected, and the correction of the error is not in time, it is anadi, it is timeless. Correction of the error is timeless, and the removal of the error is also timeless, and the presence of the error is also timeless. And therefore, even though it is, and therefore anadi anantaha, anadihi anantaha, it is free from the time, and it is free from the, and it is anantaha, it doesn't go also, it doesn't go in time, it means it doesn't go in time. It is anadihi anantaha, it is free from time. When it is there, it is free from time. It is there in consciousness. The error is there in the truth, about the truth. It is there in the truth, about the truth. And therefore the Dvaitam is there in the truth, in the Advaitam, in the truth, in the Advaitam, in the truth. And when it is gone also, it doesn't go in time, and therefore it is Anantaha. Anadir Anantaha Naisargikoyam Loka Vivaharaha. Bhagavan Krishna says, Bhagavan Shankaracharya says, it is Anadihi Anantaha Naisargikaha. It is Nisarga Jataha. Naisargikaha means it is something ignorance born. A person is not something. A person is not something as the creation of the jiva. It is not the creation of Brahman. It is not something that is born of Brahman. It is not something that is born of Brahman. It is not something that is born of Brahman, because Brahman does not change and become jiva. Nor jiva can change and become Brahman, and therefore jiva has to become free from his own perception that I am jiva, and when he becomes free from the perception that I am the body, then he is free from the jivatvam. Even he is free from the apparent jivatvam, then he continues to be Brahman. Like in Sushupti, you don't become absolute. You remain the absolute. You only become free from the sight, sound, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, etc. The five sense perception you become free from. When you become free from the fivefold sense perception, that is called really the Sushupti. When you're becoming free from the fivefold sense perception, when you become free from the fivefold perception, that is called the deep sleep state. That is what is called, you become free from the fivefold sense perception. Fivefold sense perception has laya. When it has laya, you stand, you remain there as Brahman, and there that is what is called Sushupti. It is your presence as the absolute. It is your presence as the absolute. And when you are absolute, when you are there, and therefore you don't have to think that you don't have to think. Here says na vichintayet. Na vichintayet means don't think that nanyad vichintayet. You don't think that don't think that Brahman is other than you. Brahman is yourself. The truth is yourself, and therefore subject is not an ordinary thing. Ekatma pratyaya saraha, it is said. Even though the objects are many, the subject is one. Even the other subjects, the other bodies are also bodies. The other bodies are also, when you see the other individuals, you see their bodies. It is objectifiable. When they say their mind, that is also objectifiable. When they say all their thoughts are objectifiable, and the bodies are objectifiable, minus your body and minus their body, what is there is only one consciousness, and therefore it is Advaitam, and therefore it is Advaitam, and therefore it is said, Anyat bhaved yasmat nanyat kinchit vichintayet. Anyasya anyat bhavesh hi nashat. One becomes the other. If it is true, one changes and becomes the other. What changes has to be destroyed. Change is always presupposing time. It takes place in time. Change takes place in time. And therefore, what changes? Neither Brahman changes to become the Jiva. Brahmatma has to go. When the jiva has to become Brahman in order to be free, and then also the jiva, through change, if truth is through the change, the jiva has to get destroyed, and the Brahmatvam also should get destroyed. When both are destroyed, then for whom is the salvation? For whom is the liberation? And therefore don't accept like nothing changes. When you understand that it is rope, there is no, the snake doesn't come and disappear, it doesn't crawl away. The snake doesn't crawl away. You disprove. This is what is called badha. You disprove that it looked real. It is not true. It is not real. You look real. There is no change at all. Neither the snake becomes the rope, nor the rope becomes the snake. Neither becomes the snake. There is no change at all. Smarataha drishyate drishtam pate. Drishtam means when you smarataha. Smarata, when you remember drishyate, when you remember in the drishyam, when you remember in your memory, drishyate is seen, the drishtam. Drishtam means an impression seen in your memory, but that impression looks like an object. That looks like an object, like the patam, like the chitram, pate, chitrameva arpitam. In the canvas, chitrameva, what is written is arpitam. How it is written on a canvas. In the same manner, in memory also, it is only an impression. Looks like an object. It looks like an object. It looks like an object, and therefore, it is not an object. It is only an impression, but looking like an object. In the same manner here also, yatra yena cha tau jneyau. Yatra, where, yena, by whom, cha tau jneyau. Tau means those two are known. Those two means those two. The what is qualified, what is there standing there. The person in the chitram, there is someone who sees, and there is something that is drishyam and drashta. These two. One is drishyam, the other is drashta. When both of them, there is a seer, there is a seen. These two things are seen. These two things are jnaya, where they are known. Sattva kshetrajna sanyakau. So one is a thought, the other is a kshetrajnaha. The one is a thought, the other is kshetrajnaha. And therefore, in your memory, the sight is the seer is called kshetrajnaha, and what is seen is called the intellect, the thought. Sattva means the intellect. The sattva means the intellect. The kshetrajna means the seer, the consciousness. Kshetrajnam chapimam vidyam sarva kshetreshu bharata. It is said by Bhagavan himself, every kshetrajna is myself. In actuality, every kshetrajna is myself. He tells that is true. Every kshetrajna is himself. Every kshetrajna is himself, it is said, because that is the actuality of the kshetrajna. Kshetrajna means jiva. Jiva's actuality is idam shariram kavanteya kshetramit abhideyate. This body is called the kshetram. Kshetram, it is called, the body is called kshetram. Yetam tam ved, yetam jo ved that is called kshetrajnaha. The one that sees the body is called kshetrajnaha. The body is called kshetram, and the one who understands the one who sees the body is kshetrajnaha. The jiva, but then with the notion that I am kshetrajnaha. I am kshetrajnaha means I am the jiva. I am limited in this. But when Bhagavan says the kshetrajna is the jiva's actuality. Kshetrajna's actuality means jiva's actuality. Jiva's actuality is indeed Brahmatvam, is indeed myself. His actuality is myself. And therefore, jiva is not jiva, jiva is Brahman. And every jiva is Brahman. Until he understands this, he will continue to be reborn. It is the jiva uncorrecting. Who has to correct the error? It is the jiva, whoever feels, whoever sees. The error, he has to correct it. So that means the jiva has to correct the error. The jiva has to, Brahman as the jiva has to correct the error. Brahman alone has the jiva. And therefore, the one who sees is the kshetrajnaha, and what is seen is a kshetram. It is only a thought. It is only an impression looking like an object. It is a thought. It is only a perception. The best word is perception. It is only a perception. It is only a perception. I see it, I find myself seeing it, and therefore I find myself seeing the mountains, I find myself seeing the universe, I find myself seeing myself as the jiva, I find myself suffering from this pleasure and that pain, etc. I find myself suffering from this pain and that pain. I find myself being pleased by this pleasure and that pleasure. I find myself with all the samsara around me. I find myself amidst all the five elements. I find myself being born on the earth. I find myself being born into that family. It is not. There is no will. I don't create. It is not subjective, please. I don't use my will in creating anything. I find myself in this manner. In the same manner, Ishvara also doesn't use his will to create anything. Everything happens automatically. I find myself, the unmanifest becomes the manifest. The unmanifest becomes the manifest. Manifest means the unseen becomes the seen. It is like saying the unmanifest snake becomes the manifest snake, meaning it was only being seen. The unseen becomes seen. Previously I did not see, but now I see. Previously I did not see. There is an impression. I did not, whatever is not seen before, it comes to be seen, and that is what is called the impression. Impression means every avyakritam has to become vyakritam, and therefore neither Ishvara's will is there nor Jiva's will is there. Nobody's will is there. There is no will born. It is not will born, it is in ignorance born. And therefore this is what is said. The seer is the kshetrajna, and the seen is the kshetram, and the seen is the thought. The body is also an impression thought. An impression means it is only a thought. It is it is bhautikam. It is made of, as per the law of karma, I am given the body. I am given the body as per my karma. As per the karma, is a suffering body or enjoying body. As per the karma, I get the body. As per the karma, and whatever is the karma, that that manifests in my life. And phalantam, the next verse, please. Third verse is phalantam. Every object, when it is every object is ultimately it ends up in either pleasure or pain. If you live with the object, even indifference is a kind of is a phalam. If it ends up in pleasure, if it ends up in your smile, that is phalam. If it ends up in pain also, it is phalam. If you see if it ends up in indifference, that is also a kind of an attitude. That is also phalantam. Cha anubhutam. And it is everybody experience, it is an object of experience. Anubhutam. Phalantam, anubhutam. It is every object is something that is experienced. Anubhutam. Anubhutam means it is something that is experienced. Yat anubhutam yat. Whatever is experienced, yutam. Yutam means it is something that is in association with. Yutam means that is in association with kartradi. It is united with the karakas. Karakas are kartakarakam, karmakarakam, karnakarakam, and the what is called the chaturthi, the panchami, like this, and the saptami. These are all really karakas. These karakas you have to understand. The kartrakarakam, karmakarakam, karnakarakam, these karakas you have to understand. Minus the karakas, Minus the karakas, there is no phalam. And therefore, every subject-object relation, when you see the object, there is a phalam, there is a knowledge, there is a perception. When you open your eyes, the eyes are open, and then there is an object, there is a form, and you see, you have the knowledge. There is a drashta, there is drishyam, and both combine, kartrukarakam and karmakarakam combine, and there is a phalam. And what is a phalam? There is a drishti, there is a sight, there is a knowledge of the object, knowledge of the form. Similarly, you open the ears to the sound, and the sound is the ear is the karnakarakam, and then the sound is the karmakarakam, and you use the ear, you use just as the eyes are used, and what is used by the you is ears. You use the ears to hear the sound, and then hearing it becomes the you hear the sound, and that becomes the anubhutam. That is an experienced. That is anubhav vishayam, and therefore kartruadi karakaihi yutam. It is something that is combined in association with the kartruadi karakaihi. It is in association with the kartakarakam, karmakarakam, karnakarakam, etc. The dative case and the fifth case and the seventh case, etc. Except the sixth case, all other cases are only karakas. Karakam means they are all connected to the action. They're all the results of action. They're all connected to action. Whatever action you do, they're all connected to action. And action, and then there is a result of an action, and that is phalantam. Then you experience the fruit, and that fruit is experienced. And that fruit, when you go to the farm, you see you do the cultivation, and that cultivation is the action, and the act, there is an actor, there is an object of action, there is a means of action, and then there is a purpose of action. That purpose of action is what is experienced. The purpose of action also is experienced, and that is fruit. The fruit also is experienced, and therefore kartradi karakaihi yutam yat cha anubhutam phalantam cha anubhutam. It is experienced. It is experienced. The fruit is experienced at the end. At the end of the action, the action's result is also experienced, and therefore smaryamanam, and in memory, and when you remember it, smaryamanam means remembered. He karmastham, and when it is remembered, it is put in the, it is remembered in the mind. Karmastham means it is present in the karma. It is in that karmastham means it is there in the form of the thought only. Karmastham, it is it is there as the karma, as the karma. It is not there in the karma. It is there as the karma. Karmastham, karmana sthitam. Karmana, and in the form of karma it is sthitam. Karmana sthitam. Purvam. Even before it becomes an object, as an impression it was there, as unmanifest thing, it is there in the form of karma, and later on when I see it, it looks like an object, and therefore before also it was an object of my consciousness, and later on also it becomes an object of consciousness, and therefore karmaiva tat chitaha, tat chitaha, that for that consciousness, tat chitaha, for that consciousness, for you the consciousness, that is an object. What is an object? That impression is an object, and the object also is an object of your awareness. Being an object of awareness, it doesn't qualify you, and therefore you are as free from the deha, you are Brahman, and therefore that is what is to be understood as freedom from the deha, freedom from the thought. Just as in sushupti, when you go to sleep, what happens? That is all what should happen in knowledge also. You only transcend the body, transcend the breath. In the knowledge also, you transcend the body. You are free from the body. You are free from the breath, etc. And freedom from the body cannot happen just like that. Freedom from the body means you have to understand that the body is made of yourself, the awareness, and therefore you have to swallow the body. And therefore, when the body is not there with you, you are Brahman, and therefore it is said, karmastham. It is there as an impression. It is the karma. It is karma means karmastham means karmana sthitam. It is there in the form of the karma, and as an object also it is there as an object of consciousness. And being an object, and therefore it doesn't qualify you the consciousness. It doesn't qualify you the consciousness. It is different from you, and therefore that difference has to be seen. The difference is not there. The difference is not seen. Not the one who has to see is the jiva. The one who has to correct the error is jiva, and therefore it is the Brahman that is in the form of the jiva. Kahan se jiva aaya? It is Brahman that looks like jiva, and therefore who has to correct? You may say jiva. Jiva is none other than the Brahman. Brahman has to correct that error. Brahman has to correct the error. Or you can say it is the jiva that has to correct the error. Jiva has to correct the error. Who is that jiva? Brahman as jiva is jiva. That means Brahman only has to correct the error. This is not, you can say the wave has to correct the error, or the water as the wave has to correct the error, that I am the wave. And therefore, when I am only water, I am not the wave. I am only Brahman, I am only awareness, I am not jiva. This is what is to be thought of. And therefore it is said here, Smaryamanam, what is remembered? Karmastham. It is when it is remembered in memory, it is there in the form of the karma. In memory, it is there in the form of the karma. You see in the memory, what is the memory? Memory is only a thought. But in memory, it looks like an object. And that memory, and when outside also, it looks like an object. What looks like an object in memory looks like an object outside also, with a sense of reality, with a sense of purpose, etc. And therefore it says there must have been a purpose, etc. We imagine things, and therefore what is in memory is objectifiable, and what is outside also is objectifiable. What is objectifiable is not something that can qualify consciousness, and therefore the objectifiable is different from the objectifier. Objectifier is the light, and the objectified is something that is inert, and therefore the objectifier is someone is swata siddham, and that is what is to be understood. He is not something. The senses are objectifiable, and the objects are also objectifiable. The senses are objectifiable, the thought is also objectifiable. And the one who objectifies, he objectifies, the Shruti does the Kalpana. The Shruti does the Kalpana that the objectifier, Swata Siddham Atma, objectifies. But he is only being present. He is present. The simple presence is imagined by the Shastra as the creator. The simple presence of consciousness as the seer of the impression, as the objectifier of the object. In this manner, the Shruti does the Kalpana. But despite the Kalpana, he is only presupposing his presence. He is the whole universe. The universe is there, but presupposing the presence of Ishvara, presupposing the presence of consciousness is there. Not that it's created by Ishvara. The unmanifest becomes the manifest. When the unmanifest becomes the manifest, there is no will. The will also, the unmanifest will becomes the manifest will. The unmanifest jivatvam becomes the manifest jivatvam. The unmanifest everything becomes the manifest. The unmanifest, whatever goes into unmanifest state has to become manifest, and whatever becomes manifest has to become unmanifest, and that is the law. The manifest has to become the unmanifest, and the unmanifest has to become the manifest. When we say we give the simile of the seed. For the seed to germinate, there is an unmanifest tree in the seed. That unmanifest seed has to be understood as something that becomes manifest sometime or the other. It need not be, if it is put in the stone and the rock, it doesn't manifest. It dies out. That is different. And therefore we have to give the simile properly. We have to explain it, understanding that the unmanifest seed, the unmanifest tree in the seed is there, but thinking, considering that it will get the opportunity to have a proper soil, and it is going to become manifest. We have to say, we have to consider that it becomes the manifest, then it becomes the simile. The unmanifest, just as the unmanifest tree becomes the manifest, like in the small seed of a banyan tree, a small seed is like a small seed, and when you break it, you don't see anything, but still there is a big tree, the unmanifest tree. The unmanifest becomes the manifest. The manifest becomes the unmanifest. Who makes the unmanifest manifest is not somebody's will. It all happens automatically. It all happens presupposing the presence of Parameshwara, presupposing his presence itself for Parameshwara, presupposing the presence of Atma. Everything happens. And therefore even the law of karma, the karma also, you get yatha karma yatha shrutam. You get the body as per your karma, and that is also the law. And that is also the law. And then the manifest becomes unmanifest is also the law. And all these laws presuppose Ishvara's presence, not Ishvara's will. Atma's presence, Atma's will nahi, Atma's presence. And therefore, and the more of it we will see in the next class. Thank you very much, Ji. Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you very much, Ji. And then 22nd, 23rd we are going. So the Wednesday will be the last class. Wednesday we can come. We can have the class, Wednesday, Bhagavad Gita class. And after that we will not have. We will come back and we'll continue the classes in after the 3rd. From the 3rd onwards. Third will be the first. 3rd of April will be the first class. 3rd of April is going to be Monday, and therefore 3rd of April we will resume the classes. First I will come, and second I will rest, and the 3rd we will have the classes. Thank you very much. And most of you, please come. The students who are not coming to the Ramana Kendra should come also, because if you come, it will be a booster of me. It will be a booster of my interest also. Please try to make it. Please try to make it to Ramana Kendra. Thank you very much.